Time. Let's get to the Browns. The schedule coming out tonight.
Yep,
There's been a couple of leaks, or we don't know for sure that they've been confirmed, but there is a report that the Browns will play the Jaguars in Jacksonville week 1, and a report they'll play the Steelers in Pittsburgh week 8.
Both 1 o'clock kicks.
The Browns are going to have at least 14 1 o'clock kicks probably. First of all, they don't play on the West Coast.
We're doing that topic later, so don't.
Yeah, okay, we'll get to that later.
I only listen to me. Selfishly,
yeah, you like 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock games to me is the gold standard. I would take every.
They don't play any West Coast games.
I love it.
They're not going to get a lot of primetime games, so they're going to play mostly at 1 o'clock.
Bull, I read yesterday that it's like a projected 9,040 miles total travel for the Browns this year.
Yeah,
which is the second fewest miles traveled in the NFL. I think Carolina will travel the fewest.
Yeah, Mike mentioned this yesterday too. I think it's a little over. I think that's really the Browns are always going to be near the top. All the Northeast and North Central teams don't travel much. And you're not playing anybody in the West Coast
or international, and it just keeps
that's the thing. Like probably the only difference between the Browns and the other 3 teams in this division is that the other 3 teams are all going to Europe once.
Yeah.
So that's taxing for those teams. But outside of that, there's probably no discernible difference. So it's good. I'm not saying it's not good, but I don't think compared to the division teams, it's really much of a deal. But what is a big deal is the 2 guys the Browns took in the first round. They took Spencer Fano. First in the first round, and then the second pick in the first round, they took KC Concepcion, who's apparently been looking very good in rookie minicamp, which, again, doesn't mean much, but I'd still rather him look good than not good, right? You don't want to go over the top on it, but if it's a choice between he looks good and he looks crappy, I'll take he looks good. Yeah. So Greg Cosell, again, we talked a little bit about this earlier, was on my podcast yesterday. And I asked him, of course, his thoughts on the Browns' first-round picks. And here's Greg Cosell, courtesy of the bullpen, with me and Bet Rivers, talking about what he thinks of the 2 guys the Browns took in the first round.
I actually came away from watching this tape, and believe me, I am not an offensive line guru, but I speak to some offensive line coaches that I know well, and they didn't think I was nuts at all. I know a lot of people on social media think I'm nuts, but they didn't think I was nuts. I came away watching Fano thinking that his best position could be offensive center.
Wow.
And now, again, that may not happen, and he may end up being a very good tackle.
Yeah.
Obviously, the arm length is the kind of thing you think about. It's only 32 1/8 from the combine. There's a reason when you talk to coaches in the league, offensive coaches, line coaches, that only 6 offensive linemen in the league out of 64 starters have arm length less than 33 inches. There's a reason for that. Yeah. Now, that doesn't mean Fano can't be the exception. So, look, until the guy plays, I'm not going to sit here and say he can or can't do it. I don't know the answer to that. I mean, I assume they're going to play him at tackle, right? That's where they plan on playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how it works. I mean, look, just to give you an example of how people, the arm length issue is one of those issues that different opinions by really smart people across the board. Joe Thomas, who obviously knows a little more about playing left tackle than I do, just a little bit there, Adam, just a little bit. But, like when Will Campbell had his issues late in the season, the last 4 or 5 games, I heard Joe Thomas speak about it in great detail, and he thought the arm length issue had nothing to do with his problems. Okay. Then I spoke to an offensive line coach that I know well, who's been in the league 30-plus years. He thought his arm length had everything to do with his problems. So that just shows you there's no definitive answer to that. So I'm certainly not going to weigh in because I'm being honest. I don't know the answer to that.
I thought it was fascinating that from the tape he thought he'd be best at center. He did go on to say that he thinks he's going to be a 10-year pro. He's going to be very good. His only thought was, is he not quite big enough lengthwise, arm lengthwise to play tackle? He made the point. He said only 6 out of 64 offensive linemen. He meant to say tackle there. Yeah. He's got short arms for a tackle, and maybe it will eventually lead to him playing another position.
And I'm going to defer to G in 1 second. Yeah. I just want to add a little context. He was asked and/or volunteered, he said, she said, to do center drills at the combine. So it's not just Greg Cosell who's looking at him and saying, maybe he's better suited to center. Like, he did try out different positions. He did go through drills at the combine. Teams put him through workouts, at center just to evaluate what he could potentially be at that next level. And G, you know all the entrenches stuff better than we do. So what's your take on what Greg said?
I love what he said about the arm length, because the arm length can play a role in it, but it also, you have to take a look at the arm length as well as the feet. So if you got great feet and you have disciplined feet, meaning that you're not going to overset. And one of the things that when I'm talking about oversetting is overcommitting to one side or the other, whether they're outside or the inside, and the defensive end getting into your body or giving you a move. Myles Garrett does this Euro step where he kind of fakes outside, comes back inside, gets your weight moving, and then just gets upfield. If you have great feet and you have great anticipation and you watch film a lot and you understand what guys' moves are, the counter moves, and what'll happen, you don't necessarily need the longest arms. Where long arms come into effect is maybe you don't have the best feet, but what you do have is the punch. And I want to have a punch that can solidify, and the longer my arms are, I close the distance. I don't want the defensive lineman to be able to close the distance between me and himself, because if you even, Tyvis say, you're even, you're leaving. So what you want to do is you want to get out there and you want to punch. Now, if I can punch you out here and I still got my anchor leg and I'm back and I'm in a good position, now I stonewall you. I'm using my hands, and all I need is a couple of seconds to get the football off. So long arms really help if you're a mauler, if you're a guy that doesn't have the best lateral movement. But if you're a guy like Fano who can move, who's athletic, who's agile, if he can work with his feet, think about this. Anthony Munoz wasn't one of the biggest guys. You know Anthony Munoz very well for the Bengals. Yeah. He wasn't the biggest tackle, but what Anthony Munoz did was all feet. Great athlete, great feet. And so it's a catch-22 a little bit. And I respect him so much, because he's not one of them dudes that comes out definitive. A lot of times we want to be definitive in nature about everything. I knew it today he was going to be garbage, or I knew he was going to be great tomorrow.
He said, I don't know till he plays.
He said, let's see if he plays.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take anything away from him, because even if you ain't a tackle, I don't think you should be not for being versatile. If you're not a tackle, it should be an added bonus that you can do other things. It's like being like, hey, I do radio, but I can do TV. I could do a podcast. Yeah. Do you just want to say, hey, we both came from radio, we just do radio? No, we want to be versatile, right? So I like what he said right there, and I think that helps him out a little bit.
I think the Browns decided that he was the best offensive lineman in the draft. Now, ultimately, if they didn't think he could play tackle, they would not have drafted him that high. Because you're certainly not drafting a center in the top 10. That doesn't happen. Guard is very rare. So usually it's a guy you expect to be a left tackle, and that's what they expect. Now, it feels like the worst-case scenario is that he's good at another position, which is not a disaster. It's not ideal, but it's not bad. It's not terrible. So we'll see. The question is more, can he be a tackle rather than is he a good offensive lineman? I think there's a lot of confidence around the league from everybody that knows that he'll be a good NFL offensive lineman. The question is, will it be a tackle or not? Time will tell.
And when you look at
he'll get a great test right off the bat, being able to practice with Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
I think G nailed it, so I'll just keep it as simple as this, but the offensive line is often as good as your weakest link. And if you have a guy that can play multiple positions and fill in multiple holes, whether it is tackle, guard, center, whatever, you want 5 of those guys on your team in some capacity. He started as a freshman All-American at left tackle, moved to right tackle because it allowed to put Caleb Lomu, who got drafted later in the first round, at left tackle, and Lomu wasn't as versatile as Fano. So that shows he has versatility in some capacity, whether it's right tackle, left tackle, center, guard, whatever. I think he's going to help the Browns' offensive line for the next decade.
Yeah, I hear you. It's still an opportunity cost missed if he doesn't end up at left tackle. It's not the end of the world. I mean, the Browns have wasted first-round picks on guys who can't play many times. Yeah. So, all right, now, the other first-round pick, of course.
This is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, is KC Concepcion. We mentioned it briefly that he's so far looked great in camp. The Browns drafted him, 24th? 24th. And here's what Greg Cosell had to say about KC Concepcion.
I loved Concepcion's tape. I don't make lists, so I'm not going to say he was my number one. I don't do that. But I really like Concepcion a lot. He's sudden. He's twitchy. He's got short area explosiveness. He's got accelerating vertical speed. He can be a factor at all 3 levels of the defense. You can use him in the wide receiver screen game. He's got great run after catch traits. And when I saw Todd Monken's statement about comparing him to Zay Flowers, that made me feel very good, because you know what I said in my notes after I watched Concepcion, which was probably back in February or March.
You compare him to
I
Flowers.
said the player I constantly thought of watching Concepcion was Zay Flowers coming out of Boston College, with my strong belief that Concepcion could be deployed in much the same way. And I said that obviously before I knew the Browns would draft him, so I had no idea. But, you know, I really like Concepcion a lot.
You know, he went on and on about him. He said he doesn't make lists, so he's not going to say he's number one. But he likes him better than Tate, and he likes him better than all the other three guys that went ahead of him. He's not as high on Tate. He loved the pick, and I asked him also about the drops, because that's been the biggest criticism of KC Concepcion. And he said, you know, if you watch the film on it, I believe, like, there's some guys that have drops because they got bad hands, and some guys it's drops maybe because of an occasional lack of concentration. And I think you'd rather have the lack of concentration, because that's something that can be improved upon more easily than bad hands. He said he thinks he was in that group, that occasionally there was a lapse in concentration, and that's why he had the drops, that he thinks he's got good hands. And I don't know, man. I don't like to get carried away. I mean, I think fans often get too carried away about rookies, but I'm feeling pretty good about KC Concepcion. I'm pretty high on that pick right now, and I like the fact that Greg Cosell likes him a lot.
I think when you look at KC Concepcion, the thing that will give you a little bit of encouragement about the drops is, for his size, he has a lot of 50-50 contested catches. Like, he's not a traditional gadget guy that you got to throw him a screen. He could do that. But he's a bona fide receiver. He can run routes outside the numbers, inside the numbers. He'll go get the football. Great run after catch at NC State. They even put him in the backfield and ran him a little bit at running back. We already know what his explosive ability is. One of the, I would say, the best punt returner in the country. And when you're running away from people from LSU like this, you know you can move. Like, he did it in this speed conference. This is the SEC. So for me, that's why when we always talk about the quarterback position, one of the things that I've always said was, you got it necessarily easy. They didn't have guys that you can get the ball. They didn't have 50-50 contested guys. They didn't have guys that you can put the ball up like other people had, where, hey, I'm going to throw you a 4-yard pass. You go get me the other 3, right? They have some of those guys now, and I think what it does is subtly raises the floor and the ability to play. And I think watching KC Concepcion, I'm excited the Browns have one of those guys that's quick twitch that can hit a home run.
The Browns got a steal in KC Concepcion. And let me make something very, very clear. I'm a Texas A&M fan. I worked there before I came up here. Yeah. I'm not from Texas, which a lot of people think I am. I just happened to work in Texas before I came here. I was on the beat.
Got a Texas A&M button up on today.
Certainly don't have a Texas A&M accent.
That's the Aggie color.
This is an Aggie color. I was going more for the Cavs. But let me make something abundantly clear. KC Concepcion was only available at 24 because some of the things that happened this most recent season at A&M were not the giant step forward that others thought coming off his tape from NC State. And the reason for that has nothing to do with KC Concepcion. The reason was Marcel Reed is not a good quarterback. And if you go back and go through some of the A&M tape, he ended the season with about 800 yards, 8, whatever the number was. There were so many times KC Concepcion beat his guy off the line of scrimmage and was wide open. And Marcel Reed is a great scrambler and won a lot of games and led him to the college football playoff, was unable to deliver a pass that either allowed him to score an easy touchdown or just overthrew him, underthrew him, didn't get there. KC Concepcion should have had 1,200, 1,300 yards this year and 3 or 4 more touchdowns. If he had his return ability, with his explosiveness, with stats that blew everyone off the screen, dude would have been a top 15 pick, I bet it. And the fact he's there at 24, and I'm not saying that, I know these guys don't always look at numbers. I get that.
By the way,
I get that.
Did you say any of this stuff before the draft?
Yeah, I was high. I like KC Concepcion.
You're fishy.
I'm not saying he would be taken over Tater Tyson. I'm not saying he would have been over Tater Tyson.
Yeah.
But those two went top 10.
Maybe he should have. We'll see.
I think he would have been the third receiver drafted if he had the quarterback that allowed him to fully showcase.
He was fourth. It wasn't like it was that much different.
But the gap between 8 Tyson and then the next receiver 21, that's a pretty big gap in the picks. I'm not saying the order, but I think he's a top 15 pick if he had a quarterback that could have helped him showcase more of what he could do.
What's your projection? What you think he's going to do this year?
He's gonna have 800 yards.
I still don't have a ton of faith in our quarterback play until proven otherwise.
800 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Well, I put you like this.
By the way, though, I didn't send Mike this clip, but I did talk to Greg Cosell about Shedeur Sanders because I couldn't remember what he thought of him coming out of college. And this will tie into what I think he's going to do. And I said, Greg, remind me what you thought of Greg Cosell. What you thought of Shedeur Sanders? He said, I thought he was a second-round pick. I thought he was, kind of in between where most people think.
He came on UCSS and said that.
Yeah, second round. Okay. And he said, my thoughts on Shedeur Sanders are that if everything's great around him, if he's got the right people around him, the right coaching around him, I think he could be a middle-of-the-road quarterback in the NFL. Right? But he's not going to be an elite quarterback, in my opinion. And, it's got to be right circumstances around him, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of a middle-of-the-road opinion. Now, a lot of Shedeur fans would say that's insulting.
If you middle of the road,
can you win a Super Bowl with middle of the road quarterback? I don't know.
If you say, for instance, you 12,
I don't know. But that's his opinion.
If you 12 to 15.
Yeah.
If I was to extrapolate who's 12 to 15.
I mean, Sam Darnold's in that, but everything around him has to be perfect.
Yeah.
Now, Darnold played higher than a 10 to 12 to 15 quarterback down the stretch, but that's probably where he falls in the hierarchy.
Yeah. So
he's got a long way to go to get to there, but if he can, that's why he should play because Deshaun Watson's a bum. And anyway.
And the thing I will say, the thing about Shedeur Sanders that he will do, Tyvis says it, he's going to throw the ball deep. He'll give you a chance. If there's one thing he will do, is he's going to put the ball in, sometimes it be in harm's way, but he will give you a chance. Isaiah Bond caught a few. And look, Harold Fannin Jr., he had a nice year, and he had how many 4 quarterbacks throwing the ball to him?
Yeah,
400
that's true.
yards?
I could see him. I actually say more than 800 yards after all of that. I'm going to say 912 yards for KC Concepcion as a rookie.
That would be
pretty sweet.
Great season.
That's a great rookie season.
All right.